Number 16. Suzanne Lapri. In October 2023, a disturbing incident unfolded at the Bristol Police Department in Connecticut involving a 51-year-old former state worker named Suzanne Lapri. Surveillance footage recorded Lapri's violent episode, capturing her entering a police station with a gun, engaging in destructive behavior, and posing a threat to herself and the officers. At around 11:30 p.m., Lapri entered the police station and immediately began a chaotic encounter. The security footage depicted her storming towards the front, brandishing a gun and striking the protective glass with it. But despite firing several rounds at the glass, the bullets didn't penetrate. Lapri, seemingly in a state of distress, then removed her red jacket and proceeded to sit on a lobby bench, repeatedly holding the gun to her head and firing a shot into the ceiling. Body camera footage revealed officers assessing the situation with caution before trying to establish communication with Lapri. Despite their efforts, though, Lapri fired additional rounds in the direction of the officers, prompting Officer Spencer Boisford to return fire. Luckily, the bullet-resistant glass thwarted all shots and no injuries occurred. When Lapri finally dropped her weapon, officers swiftly apprehended her, utilizing an electronic defense weapon. She was transported to Bristol Hospital for evaluation and was later released. Lapri now faces an array of charges, including criminal attempted murder, illegal discharge of a firearm, and various weapon-related offenses. She'd worked for the State Department of Developmental Services for 12 years, assisting individuals with disabilities. Reports indicated that Lapri had previously mentioned at a sports bar that she intended to visit the police station and either be killed by them or shoot them. However, the trigger for her meltdown remains unclear. She employed a firearm belonging to her boyfriend, a retired New York police officer. Currently held on a $3 million bond, Lapri's next court appearance was scheduled for October 17, 2023. Unfortunately, though, no further updates on the case have been released. Number 15. Sergeant Tyler Longman. In August 2019, Michael Chad Breinholt faced a tragic end in Utah at the hands of West Valley City Police Sergeant Tyler Longman. Intoxicated at the police department, 31-year-old Breinholt found himself in a distressing situation that ultimately led to his death. Body camera footage captured the heartbreaking moment when, with his hands cuffed, Breinholt briefly struggled with officers, prompting Sergeant Longman to declare, "You're about to die, my friend," before firing the fatal shot. The shock for Breinholt's family deepened when they discovered that this wasn't Sergeant Longman's first fatal shooting while on duty. It was his third. Questions arose about the officer's continued role in law enforcement, especially given the previous instances of using lethal force. Breinholt's family, devastated by the loss, wondered why Longman was still allowed to carry a gun. Nearly 2 years after the incident, the family faced unanswered questions about the possibility of charges against Longman. The Salt Lake County District Attorney, Sim Gill, holds the authority to decide on charges in police shootings within his jurisdiction. Despite the passage of time, though, the reasons for the delayed legal review remained unclear. Sergeant Longman is among 38 Utah officers involved in more than one shooting over the past 16 years. The Incident Review Committee in West Valley City determined that Longman didn't violate policy, leading to his return to duty after standard administrative leave following a police shooting. The officer's actions received support from Utah's Fraternal Order of Police. West Valley City Police and Longman's attorney declined to provide insights into the case, citing its pending status with the district attorney. And prosecutors had previously justified Longman's actions in his first 2 shootings. The public initially saw only a 9-minute edited video, raising concerns about transparency. The Salt Lake Tribune sought the unedited footage, leading to a dispute with West Valley City. The State Records Committee eventually mandated the release of the full video, offering a more comprehensive view of the unusual shooting inside a police station. And expert analysis of the footage by Randy Shrewsbury found no justification for the shooting. District Attorney Sim Gill, ruling on the case in July 2021, declared that Longman's actions were lawful, so he wouldn't face charges. The lengthy legal review process added to the family's anguish, leaving them with unresolved questions surrounding the circumstances of Breinholt's tragic demise. Number 14. Ali Naji. In December 2022, an unfortunate incident occurred at the Dearborn Police Department in Michigan, resulting in the death of 33-year-old Ali Naji. Surveillance footage released by the police depicted the moment Naji entered the police station brandishing a gun, and ultimately, he faced fatal consequences a week before Christmas. On December 18th, Naji walked into the police station's lobby, where he pointed a gun at an officer behind the front desk. Attempting to shoot, the gun malfunctioned or jammed, providing a crucial window of opportunity for a Dearborn police officer to respond by fatally shooting Naji. The officer was positioned behind a bullet-resistant window, and as Naji pulled out his gun, the officer, having stepped back, swiftly drew his weapon, firing multiple shots. Upon recovering Naji's gun, it was revealed that the safety was off and one round was in the chamber. Following the shooting, additional officers arrived to secure the scene, and Naji was transported to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Subsequently, Naji's family filed a $10 million lawsuit against the Dearborn Police Department, alleging excessive force and wrongful death. However, the Wayne County prosecutor announced that no charges would be filed against the officer, citing Naji as an immediate threat. Wayne County prosecutor Kim Worthy stated, in her own words, that the reasons behind Mr. Naji entering the Dearborn Police Department with a loaded weapon and attempting to shoot at a police officer may remain unknown. Despite the profound tragedy, it's evident that the officer acted within the bounds of lawful self-defense in defense of others. The decision not to press charges underscores the prosecutor's belief that the officer's actions were justifiable, given the immediate threat posed by Naji's armed entrance into the police station. Number 13. Cop ignores woman's cries for help. Former Aurora police officer Levi Huffine faced scrutiny in August 2019 for an incident involving a black woman, Chataean Kelly, who fell headfirst while hogtied in the back of a patrol car and was left in that position for almost 21 minutes. Video footage of the incident was presented during an appeal hearing for Huffine, who'd been fired in February 2020. The video, time-stamped before 5:30 p.m. on August 27, 2019, displayed Kelly kneeling with her hands raised after an alleged fight. Huffine handcuffed her, claiming that he deployed his taser, and despite Kelly's protests about her innocence, he told her to shut up. Subsequently, she was placed in the police car, and when attempting to open the door, Huffine decided to hogtie her for trying to escape. Kelly was then placed face down in the grass, with officers tying her hands and feet behind her back using a cord known as a hobble. And despite concerns raised by one officer about calling medical assistance, Huffine refused. Kelly was eventually lifted into the back seat of the patrol car, where she cried out in pain, expressing difficulty breathing. In the footage, Kelly slid headfirst onto the car floor, sobbing and apologizing, stating that she couldn't breathe and fearing that her neck might break. She pleaded not to die in the car, likening the situation to slavery. And when the female officer at the detention center questioned the positioning, Kelly asserted Huffine was going to kill her. Huffine defended his actions during the appeal hearing, accusing the police chief of character assassination. He acknowledged hearing Kelly's cries, but chose to ignore them based on his experience transporting prisoners for 15 years. Despite Kelly's visible distress, he insisted that he had no clue that she'd fallen onto the floor. Police Chief Vanessa Wilson, who fired Huffine, expressed dismay at the footage, stating that every viewing made her feel sick. She emphasized that officers shouldn't treat people inhumanely, and Huffine's actions weren't in line with the department's expectations. Huffine, during the hearing, claimed his experience was sufficient enough to determine if someone was faking distress. The city's Civil Service Commission would then be tasked with deciding whether to uphold Huffine's termination or reinstate him with a lesser sentence. The video revealed Kelly's panic, and Wilson emphasized the risks of hobbling people. Kelly's potential suffering from positional asphyxia due to the hobbling position was highlighted, and although Kelly wasn't physically injured, the escape charge against her was criticized. Huffine faced no criminal charges in the end, and the city dropped all charges against Kelly as well, emphasizing the necessity of questioning charges like abusive language or threats. Number 12. Wrongful arrest settlement. In 2021, Sterling Heights City Council approved a $265,000 settlement to resolve a federal lawsuit from 2019 concerning the wrongful arrest of Logan Davis, an 18-year-old high schooler. He was apprehended by a police officer as he awaited his father outside a closed business. The incident, initially kept confidential, came to light when the city released a settlement agreement under a Freedom of Information Act request. Davis, accused of loitering by Officer Jeremy Wallman, was waiting near his workplace when he was arrested. The City Council unanimously voted to approve the settlement in September 2021, with the details of the agreement remaining confidential. The lawsuit, which was filed in 2020, alleged wrongful investigation, arrest, and retaliation against Davis for exercising his First Amendment rights. Davis faced misdemeanor charges of loitering and resisting, which were both later dropped. The case was featured in a 2021 Free Press investigation on the misuse of resisting and obstructing charges in Michigan, revealing disproportionate impacts on the state's black residents. Davis contended that he was wrongly arrested and investigated. Wallman's police report indicated suspicion due to Davis standing near closed businesses, suggesting a possible lookout for a break-in. Video evidence captured Wallman confronting Davis, demanding identification. But when Davis questioned the need for his last name, Wallman cited loitering, leading to a heated exchange. Despite Davis pointing to his work shirt and explaining that he'd just finished work, Wallman insisted on verification. The situation then escalated as Davis refused to produce ID, resulting in Wallman slamming him to the ground and making the arrest. In a subsequent statement, Sterling Heights Police Chief Dale Dvoyakovsky deemed the encounter an isolated incident and took disciplinary action, including additional de-escalation training for Wallman. Dvoyakovsky then met with Davis's family, clarified the arrest's rationale, and issued an apology. The settlement raised questions about police accountability and the use of charges against individuals, particularly considering the racial disparities highlighted in the investigation. Despite the settlement, though, concerns remain about the incident's impact on community relations and the broader dialogue on policing. Number 11. Joseph Molton. In April 2023, a bizarre incident unfolded in Florida when a reportedly intoxicated man, identified as Joseph Molton, broke into the Naples Police Department headquarters and engaged in a series of unusual activities. Authorities revealed that 36-year-old Molton managed to gain access to the police building, where he spent approximately 40 minutes undetected. It wasn't hard for him to do this either, as the area he was roaming was unstaffed during the evening hours. During his unauthorized visit, Molton allegedly jumped a fence and hid in a beach patrol car, where he accidentally left his wallet, and later he concealed himself in the bushes. After that, he obtained an outside garden hose, inserted it under a door, and then turned on the water, causing a corridor to flood with at least an inch of water. Continuing his unconventional escapade, Molton breached a security door which allowed him access to the offices of command officers. Molton even took a shower in the men's locker room before being caught. Clad only in a towel, he roamed the police department's halls before committing further unusual acts, including defecating on the floor of the women's bathroom and rendering a police radio useless by tossing it into a toilet. Molton then reportedly stole a bulletproof vest, police clothing, and a hat before exiting the building through an east side door. The incident went unnoticed until 2 a.m. when an officer entering the station discovered his gym bag on a table in the break room. Subsequent scrutiny of security camera footage exposed Molton's activities within the police building. Following the discovery, officers found Molton's wallet in the patrol car, prompting an extensive search for the suspect. A clerk at a nearby 7-Eleven had reported a person acting suspiciously in law enforcement clothing at around 2 a.m. that morning, but initial investigations yielded nothing. At 6:05 a.m., though, officers finally located and apprehended Molton. He now faces felony charges of burglary and grand theft. Released on $30,000 bail, Molton's first court appearance was scheduled for May 1, 2023. Meanwhile, Naples Police Lieutenant Brian McGinn commended officers and detectives for their thorough investigation, leading to the arrest of the audacious intruder. This case appears to be ongoing. Number 10. Undercover Op. In 2017, an internal investigation was initiated within the Detroit Police Department following a clash between officers from the 12th and 11th precincts in an East Side neighborhood. The incident unfolded on Andover Street, which is known locally for persistent drug activity. The conflict reportedly began when two special operations officers from the 12th precinct were conducting a push-off near 7 Mile on Andover. This operation involved undercover officers posing as drug dealers to apprehend potential buyers and seize their vehicles. However, the situation took an unexpected turn when officers from the 11th Precinct, unaware that their counterparts were fellow officers, arrived at the scene. Believing them to be actual drug dealers, the 11th Precinct officers ordered the undercover officers to the ground. Subsequently, the full special operations team from both precincts converged on a house in the 19300 block of Andover to conduct a raid. Instead of cooperating, though, tensions escalated, resulting in a physical altercation between officers from the two precincts. Witnesses reported the drawing of firearms and the exchange of punches, while a homeowner observed the chaotic scene. Internal Affairs and the department's leadership were promptly informed, launching an investigation into the conduct of each officer involved to ascertain the root cause of the conflict. Residents in the area expressed the need for better communication within the police department to prevent such incidents. It was disclosed that one of the units involved had body camera footage capturing the entire episode, which became a crucial part of the ongoing internal investigation. However, the top brass refrained from providing comments on the matter until the following week, leaving the details and implications of the clash to be uncovered through the investigative process. Number 9. Officer recognized for OnlyFans. Starting in October 2023, the Minneapolis Police Department conducted an internal investigation into one of its officers who engaged in adult content creation on OnlyFans. The officer employed in the 4th Precinct is being scrutinized for potential policy violations related to her off-duty activities. A recent incident occurred when the officer pulled over a motorist who recognized her from her OnlyFans page. The driver, after about 10 minutes, identified the 35-year-old officer as someone he'd encountered online, where she shares explicit content, including full-length videos with her partner. The investigation was prompted by concerns about the officer's OnlyFans account, which describes her as a free-spirited, overly optimistic creator of sexy content to please others. The department is taking the allegations seriously and is examining whether the officer's involvement in the adult content subscription service violates policies. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara stated, "We take any allegations of policy violations seriously," and he followed that up by saying an investigation had been ordered. The department's off-duty employment policy prohibits officers from engaging in business activities incompatible with police work, specifically those involving adult entertainment. While the mayor's office expressed a potential lack of concern if the issue revolves around private content behind a paywall, Chief O'Hara will ultimately determine if there are policy violations. The driver, upon recognizing the officer, expressed discomfort with her authority, stating, "You can't arrest me no more. I've seen your private parts." The man was also interviewed by Fox 9 after the incident, and he said that he'd just seen the officer and her husband the night before the traffic stop after paying $29.29 for the explicit content on OnlyFans. And he ended his statement by saying that he no longer has respect for the officer in question or the precinct. The department's investigation timeline remains undisclosed, but this incident is reminiscent of a case in Missouri where a high school teacher resigned after her OnlyFans account became known to the school district, resulting in an investigation into her off-the-clock activities. Number 8. LAPD sued for $100 million. The Los Angeles Police Department is facing a $100 million lawsuit over the death of Keenan Anderson, the cousin of one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. Anderson, who was 31 years old at the time of his death, passed away on January 3, 2023, during the LAPD's response to a hit-and-run traffic collision call in Venice. Police assert that Anderson caused the crash and fled, leading to a physical confrontation during his apprehension. According to family lawyers, Anderson was held down and tased for over 90 seconds, resulting in his death. The LAPD maintains that Anderson, who appeared intoxicated, was suspected of causing the traffic collision. Body camera footage released by the LAPD shows Anderson running in the street upon officers' arrival, exhibiting erratic behavior. But family members argue that he was in the midst of a mental health crisis. During the confrontation, officers used a taser, body weight, firm grips, and joint locks to handcuff Anderson, who resisted their efforts. He also had his ankles hobbled to prevent escape. Anderson, a father of a 5-year-old boy and a teacher for 8 years, was visiting family for the holidays from Washington, D.C., when the incident occurred. In the body camera footage, Anderson can be heard shouting that officers were trying to George Floyd me, referencing the 2020 incident where a black man was killed by police in Minneapolis. LAPD Chief Michael Moore stated that Anderson was tased 6 times during the struggle. Paramedics transported him to a hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. Hours after restraint and conducted energy device use, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office determined Anderson's cause of death as effects of cardiomyopathy, enlarged heart, and cocaine use, but the manner of death is undetermined. Family lawyers emphasized that Anderson's actions shouldn't justify the officer's use of lethal force, as he was compliant and posed no threat. Now, in the aftermath, they plan to pursue justice for Anderson's 5-year-old son. Relatives had previously filed a $50 million damages claim against the city on January 20, 2023, which serves as a precursor to the recently filed lawsuit. The LAPD is now under scrutiny as the legal proceedings unfold. Number 7. Jared Snowden and Antoine Larry. 2 police officers in Phoenix, Illinois, are facing charges of extortion, theft, and soliciting bribes. 34-year-old Phoenix Police Sergeant Jared Snowden and 46-year-old patrol officer Antoine Larry were indicted by a federal grand jury on 4 counts, alleging their involvement in criminal conspiracy between 2020 and 2022. The indictment accuses them of corruptly soliciting and obtaining cash payments, controlled substances, and other valuables from motorists encountered during traffic stops. The officers allegedly offered to reduce, drop, or decline charges in exchange for these payments. The indictment from January 2023 lists 7 incidents of robbery or bribery between October 2020 and December 2021, suggesting a potential conspiracy as early as April 2020. During traffic stops, the officers reportedly seized illegal items such as guns or drugs and demanded cash bribes to avoid pressing charges. In one case, they're accused of selling unlawfully obtained drugs to a dealer and sharing the proceeds. The officers are accused of arranging meetings at a nearby gas station for victims to pay cash bribes, sometimes involving a third party as a bag man to collect payments. The indictment highlights an instance where the officers extorted $8,000 from a victim, while others claim to have paid approximately $1,000 in exchange for being let off the hook. Both officers have been placed on unpaid administrative leave pending the federal trial's outcome. The Phoenix Chief of Police released a statement refraining from further comments to avoid compromising the federal investigation's integrity. As of January 2023, neither Larry nor Snowden was in custody, and an attorney for one of the officers mentioned that it may be weeks before their arraignment in court. Now, in December 2023, there have been no updates on the case, suggesting that it's ongoing. Number 6. Drunk Mexican Police Chief. Breitbart, Texas obtained a leaked video from Mexico revealing Tamaulipas State Police Delegate Luis Manuel Teco Gonzalez inspecting personnel while appearing to be in a drunken state. The video captures the police commander, adorned in a brown bulletproof vest, swaying and questioning his troops about the number of loaded magazines on their rifles. Speaking in Spanish, Teco Gonzalez, with slurred speech, mentions coming from Matamoros, a border city, and describes the harsh cartel violence there. Then, after a few minutes of incoherent conversation and expletives, Teco Gonzalez is seen stumbling as he walks away. Following the incident, the Tamaulipas government confirmed Teco Gonzalez's dismissal from the police force. The government stated that his removal was due to actions contrary to the expected behavior of a police leader. Teco had joined the state police force in 2015 after retiring from the Mexican military. His most recent assignment was in Tampico, a port city bordering the Mexican state of Veracruz. Tampico has faced ongoing cartel violence, including kidnappings, extortion, and gun battles, as reported by Breitbart, Texas. The city is currently under the influence of Mexico's Gulf Cartel, while the nearby state of Veracruz is dominated by the Los Zetas. It's easy to understand why someone in this line of work would be driven to alcohol after experiencing such tragedy and violence. Pacheco Gonzalez's experiences don't justify his behavior, especially since he was in a position of leadership within the police force. Number 5. Excessive force. 3 Arkansas law enforcement officers are under investigation, facing state and federal inquiries following the release of a video capturing at least 2 of them allegedly using excessive force during an arrest. The incident involved Crawford County Sheriff's deputies Zach King and Levi White, as well as Mulberry Police Department officer Thel Riddle. The 34-second video captured in 2022 shows officers restraining 27-year-old Randall Worcester near a curb outside a business, with one officer punching and slamming his head to the ground while another knees him. A woman off camera mentions Worcester needing medication, and an officer responds aggressively. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Arkansas, the FBI Little Rock Field Office, and the U.S. Justice Department's Civil Rights Division have since launched investigations. The video prompted concerns about excessive force, and the officers were suspended with pay. Notably, though, none of the officers were equipped with a body camera. Worcester is charged with multiple offenses, including second-degree battery, resisting arrest, and terroristic threatening. He allegedly threatened a gas station clerk in another town before the confrontation with police occurred. The video raises questions about the officer's response, with 2 CNN senior law enforcement analysts deeming the use of force excessive. The officers involved haven't provided a statement, and for now, the incident remains under investigation. Worcester's attorneys emphasize the need for further scrutiny and suggest that the woman off camera could have potentially saved his life by recording the incident. Despite claims that Worcester attacked the officers, the analysts find it challenging to justify the violent response seen in the video. The lack of accepted handcuffing techniques and the apparent use of excessive force raised concerns. Governor Asa Hutchinson condemns the officers' actions as reprehensible conduct, but underscores the ongoing investigation's importance in determining the full context of the encounter. King and White were originally set to stand trial in early April 2023. However, a judge agreed to a continuance in the trial on March 9th. So until December 11th, the new date of their trial, the outcome of the case is unclear. Number 4. Cops enable prostitution ring. In Alexandria, Virginia, a civil trial that began in 2015 is centered around a woman known as Jane Doe, who claims that she was lured from Costa Rica into a sex trafficking ring operating in Virginia. The case implicates former Fairfax County Police Chief Edwin Rosler and 3 other officers, accusing them of being clients of the enterprise and enabling its activities. Doe had worked under Hazel Sanchez from 2010 to 2015, and Sanchez was subsequently convicted of running a commercial sex operation. Doe claims that after being promised work as a nanny and a high-end escort, she was coerced into prostitution and forced to have relations with numerous men daily. The officers, including Rosler and James Baumstark, a former Fairfax County police captain, are accused of enabling trafficking by allowing Sanchez's ring to function. Rosler and Baumstark were added to the lawsuit after a disgruntled Fairfax officer, initially uninvolved, came forward. The accusations against Rosler included obstructing the officer's investigation into human trafficking for sexual exploitation. During the trial's opening, Doe's lawyer alleged that Rosler and Baumstark were also clients of Sanchez. Doe approached the FBI in 2015 after escaping Sanchez's control, who'd confiscated her passport and threatened deportation. The FBI's investigation led to criminal charges against Sanchez, and findings were shared with Fairfax County Police, leading to the resignations of Michael Barbazette, a police lieutenant, and Jason Mardocco, a sergeant. The defense questions Doe's credibility, contending that she engaged in consensual sex work rather than being trafficked. Lawyers on both sides emphasized that the case hinges on Doe's credibility, with experts expected to testify about distinguishing trafficking from consensual sex work. The trial focuses on whether the officers were complicit in the trafficking operation and the nature of Doe's engagement in sex work after escaping Sanchez. Number 3. William Stephen Bagg. In Benson, Arizona, a 47-year-old man named William Stephen Bagg was arrested in November 2023 for allegedly placing a small bomb outside the local police station. The incident resulted in charges against Bagg, including setting off an explosive and engaging in an act of terrorism. Benson Police Chief Greg Volker revealed that the explosive, consisting of a heating pack inside a liquid-filled bottle, caused minimal destruction when it detonated after 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. Surveillance footage captured the event, but Benson police have not yet shared the video. Chief Volker noted that officers recognized Bagg's vehicle due to prior interactions with him. Authorities located him at a Walmart, opting to arrest him outside the store to avoid disturbances. And according to Chief Volker, the arrest was conducted without incident. While investigators work to establish the motive behind the bombing, Chief Volker suggested that Bagg's intentions may have been more focused on instilling fear than causing significant harm. Residents echoed a sentiment of resilience, emphasizing a commitment to community safety. And despite the surprising incident in the typically quiet town, locals expressed a determination to look out for one another. Individuals like Bob, who preferred not to disclose his last name, conveyed confidence in the community's ability to maintain safety, highlighting the vigilance of the locals. Ernest Bernal, a Benson native, expressed astonishment at such an event occurring in the close-knit town, emphasizing the need for increased diligence and community watch. Investigators are currently exploring the possibility of the bombing being linked to retaliation, considering whether it was prompted by Bagg's recent arrest by Benson police. As the investigation unfolds, News 4 Tucson commits to providing updated information on the incident. Number 2. Wayne Kenny. In May 2021, Wayne Kenny, a 31-year-old hook-set man, was sentenced to a year and a day in federal prison for hacking computers associated with the Auburn Police Department and the Farnham Center, a substance abuse treatment facility where he was undergoing counseling. The case unfolded when Kenny, initially arrested by Auburn police in 2015 for heroin possession, received a suspended sentence and was mandated to attend drug counseling at the Farnham Center in Manchester. According to prosecutors, Kenny harbored resentment towards the Auburn police for his arrest, leading him to retaliate by hacking into their computers. U.S. Attorney John Farley noted that while disagreement with law enforcement is permissible, engaging in destructive actions like computer hacking is inappropriate and intolerable. Kenny employed self-made key logging software to pilfer employee login details at the Auburn Police Department and town offices. Subsequently, he deleted files, defaced accounts, and triggered pop-up messages expressing a desire for the arresting officer's death. Court documents revealed that Kenny extended his hacking activities to the Farnham Center's website, impeding access to treatment resources and altering the emergency phone number. And by attacking the treatment center's website, Kenny disrupted their ability to provide emergency drug treatment to individuals in need. His actions were deemed serious crimes with significant victims. Kenny pleaded guilty to unauthorized access to a computer and damage to protected computers, leading to his 1-year prison sentence. U.S. Attorney Farley emphasized the severity of computer hacking as a federal felony, underscoring the seriousness of Kenny's conduct. The FBI, which was involved in the investigation, stated that the case was a warning to others engaged in cybercrimes, showing their commitment to investigating all such offenses. We have another great video lined up right after number 1. If you need more of a daily world list dosage, then be sure to stay tuned if you haven't seen that one yet. Number 1. Anthony Horn. In May 2022, an unsettling incident took place in El Dorado County, California, as a correctional officer from the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office, identified as Anthony Horn, found himself on the wrong side of the law. Horn was taken into custody for driving under the influence of a controlled substance when he reported for duty at the Placerville jail. The arrest stemmed from suspicions among the jail staff regarding Horn's demeanor, raising concerns that he might have been under the influence of a controlled substance. Responding to these suspicions, authorities initiated an investigation into the correctional officer's condition, and as the inquiry unfolded, deputies unearthed an additional alarming discovery. What appeared to be methamphetamine was allegedly found in Horn's possession. This development added a layer of complexity to the already serious charges he was facing. Anthony Horn's legal troubles escalated as he was booked into the El Dorado County Jail on charges that included driving under the influence of a drug. Moreover, the possession of a controlled substance became an additional charge, signaling potential legal consequences beyond the initial suspicion of impaired driving. And in a more troubling revelation, Horn faced an accusation of bringing a controlled substance into a jail facility, a serious breach of the law given his role as a correctional officer. The El Dorado County Sheriff's Office, while swift in addressing the situation, chose to release limited details regarding the incident. The circumstances surrounding the arrest raise questions about the potential impact on the correctional officer's professional standing and the internal mechanisms in place to prevent such occurrences within law enforcement agencies. As legal proceedings unfold, the community and law enforcement officials alike will undoubtedly be observing how the case progresses. But for now, it's ongoing.
Number 10. Shooting in the bathroom. On April 12, 2021, a police officer in Tennessee walked into a bathroom at Austin East Magnet High School and shot a teenager to death. 17-year-old Anthony J. Thompson Jr. was killed by a cop at school, the one place teenagers expect to be safe. It all started because police received a call from Anthony's ex-girlfriend's mother, claiming Anthony had been physically abusing her daughter. This is a very serious allegation, and so 4 officers responded to the school to see what Anthony had to say. When they got there, he was loitering in the bathroom, so the officers went to make the arrest. As they handcuffed the young man, the gun in Anthony's pocket went off and a bullet struck a trash can. But the sound of the gunshot caused such a mass confusion in the small bathroom that Officer Claybo pulled out his gun and shot the teenager, who then collapsed dead on the floor. But listen to how incompetent this police officer is. Not only did he get spooked by a gunshot and immediately shoot the teen who was already in handcuffs, he also shot another officer. After Anthony had been shot and collapsed, Officer Claybo fired again and struck another officer in the leg. Then they wasted time arresting a student who had barricaded himself in the stall because he was terrified instead of tending to Anthony. It took them over a minute to realize the teenager had even been shot. And in case you were wondering, no criminal charges are to be filed against the officer. Number 9. One jealous cop. An officer who had been with the San Antonio Police Department for 3 years was put on administrative leave in April of 2019. The reason was simple. Nicolette Muniz was arrested on suspicion of assault and family violence and subsequently charged. The incident happened at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Friday when Nicolette got into a dispute with her boyfriend. She learned that her boyfriend had been sleeping with another woman on the side. Although to be honest, it was a little confusing on whose boyfriend this guy was. He definitely had a romantic relationship with both of them, but wasn't technically with Nicolette at the time of the attack. You see, Nicolette had called Kenneth Marino, but his other girlfriend picked up the phone instead. The 2 women got into an argument. Nicolette said, "I bet you won't say that to my face," and the other woman gave out her home address. This resulted in Nicolette showing up outside the woman's home at 3 o'clock in the morning. She wasn't messing around either. As soon as the woman came out, she beat the snot right out of her. The charges were eventually dropped against Nicolette, but she was given a no-contact order with her ex-boyfriend and told by her department to stay away from him. Number 8. The Lingerie Policewoman. Samantha Sepulveda lived a pretty busy life. She has over 100,000 Instagram fans and also happens to be a police officer in Freeport, Long Island. She's 5'2", full brunette, and so hot that she says criminals aren't mad at all when she's the one who arrests them. She even says she almost never has to get into a fight with perps, and instead just convinces them to put on the cuffs. Samantha claims her good looks and curves make her job easier because there's less aggression and dangerous situations are more easily diffused. Samantha began her modeling career in 2013 and has traveled all over the world to do photo shoots. It was only 3 years earlier that she had become a policewoman. In a news interview, Samantha recalled one time when she was phoned to deal with a man who had just beaten up his wife and threatened to kill the police. When Samantha started chasing him, the man was so overwhelmed by her beauty that he stopped, allowed her to arrest him, and then even asked her out on a date. Maybe if we had more cops like Samantha, the world would be a better place. Number 7. Taking a bribe. Officer Michael Mosley, or rather, ex-Officer Michael Mosley, was indicted by a federal grand jury on 2 counts of bribery. According to United States Attorney Matthew Schneider, the dirty cop took $15,000 in bribes. Michael had been on the force for 2 decades, but it all started going downhill in April of 2019. This was when Michael was a member of the Major Violators Unit. On April 3rd, he performed a search of a drug trafficker's residence. During the search, he discovered a heap of heroin and cocaine, as well as half a dozen firearms. The drug trafficker confessed that he had even more drugs where that came from, and even signed a confession. But what's weird was that Michael stayed in contact with the drug trafficker afterwards, and the trafficker didn't go to jail. You see, the dealer offered $15,000 in cash to not pursue drug charges. On May 2nd, Michael Mosley collected $10,000 in cash that had been left by the drug dealer in the backyard of some abandoned house in Detroit. Then on May 23rd, the officer took another $5,000. In return, Michael handed the original copy of the signed confession over to the drug trafficker, officially letting him go. Each bribery charge carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in jail. It's doubtful the officer is going to get 20 years in prison after serving on the force for 2 decades, but he's definitely getting fired and his career is over. All over a bit of extra cash. Number 6. Inappropriate photos and the Utah cop. A cop in Utah kept explicit photographs of a victim who was being extorted, showed them off to his buddies to get a laugh, and then the victim was murdered. Lauren McCluskey was a 21-year-old student at the University of Utah when she went to the campus police in October of 2018. Lauren was afraid of her ex-boyfriend, a 37-year-old sex offender named Melvin Rowland. Melvin had threatened to release extremely inappropriate and embarrassing photographs of Lauren if she refused to do what he said, and she had already paid him over $1,000 not to do it. She went to Officer Miguel Darras with her problem, and he saved the explicit images that were being used to blackmail Lauren on his cell phone. According to the investigation following Lauren's death, the officer showed them to at least one male colleague. He even bragged that he was able to look at Lauren's photos at any time he wanted. Clearly, the officer had no business being in any position of authority. He was a total dirtbag. Plus, 9 days after Lauren went to the campus cop for help, getting none, she was shot and killed by her ex. Her parents filed a $56 million lawsuit against the police for the way they handled this case. Lauren's mother says the very people who were supposed to help and protect her daughter instead exploited her and allowed her insane ex-boyfriend to murder her. Number 5. Stealing a corpse. On November 1st, 2021, something so insane happened that you would think it came straight from a Hollywood movie. A police officer in New Jersey struck and killed a man while driving down Garden State Parkway. Rather than calling it in and dealing with the situation, he picked up the body, put it in his car, and then drove away. Yeah, he stole the corpse of the person he had run over instead of taking them to the hospital or calling for a paramedic. The officer is Luis Santiago, and he was just 25 years old when he became a murderer. He was driving on the shoulder of the road at 3 o'clock in the morning when he hit Damian Dimka. The cop and his passenger, a male named Albert, left the scene, then drove back a little later and loaded the victim into the car. They didn't alert any other police or even try giving first aid. At the time, Luis Santiago was off duty. The two men drove to Luis's parents' house to discuss with the rest of the family what they should do with the body. But because Luis's father is a Newark police lieutenant, he set things straight. He forced his son to go back to the scene of the crime, and he called the police and ratted him out. His own father tattled. Luis had only become an official cop 2 years earlier in 2019. He has since been suspended without pay and is facing charges of desecrating human remains, vehicular homicide, leaving the scene of a crash, and endangering an injured victim. Plus, his passenger and his mother are being charged with conspiracy. Number 4. Planting drugs. A former Florida deputy was indicted for supposedly planting drugs during a traffic stop. Zachary Wester, who had been a deputy in Jackson County, took a bit of a career tumble in 2018 after these allegations came into the light. He was indicted in 2019 on 52 counts, including misconduct, racketeering, fabricating evidence, and false imprisonment. This is because he didn't get busted just planting drugs on one unwary driver, but roughly a dozen, and those are only the ones that came forward. Most of his cases come from traffic stops in 2017 and 2018. The officer arrested drivers and passengers alike and charged them with possession of methamphetamine and marijuana. But after many of these people came forward to say it was complete nonsense, the police had no choice but to look at it seriously. One of his victims was a mother who had been pulled over because one of her brake lights was broken. Wester then stashed a couple bags of meth in her vehicle and arrested her for felony possession and child endangerment. Zachary Wester arrested so many people on false drug charges that there were just no way the department could keep it quiet. They were forced to start investigating in 2018, even though they almost certainly knew what he was doing all along. He has since pleaded not guilty, although over 120 defendants arrested by Wester have had their charges dropped and been set free. Clearly, the people in charge know exactly what he was doing. Some of the people Wester arrested on fake drug charges went to jail for upwards of a year. One man he falsely arrested for meth possession, Chris Fears, lost his job, he and his wife split up, and his life fell apart because everyone thought he was a meth addict, when in fact it was just a really evil police officer who had nothing better to do than ruin people's lives. Number 3. Robbing a Marine. Stephen Lara is a Marine from Texas who was robbed by the DEA and had to sue them to get his money back. It happened in February of 2021. Stephen was on his way to visit his daughters in North California when he took out his entire life savings from the bank in cold hard cash. He had possession of $87,000 stuffed in bags in his car, but he wasn't worried because that was his money. Well, a Nevada State Highway Patrol officer pulled Stephen over because he was driving too slowly. When the officer looked in his vehicle, he saw the bags of cash. The officer was immediately suspicious, but Stephen denied it had anything to do with illegal activity. It didn't. Nevertheless, a DEA agent was called in to seize the cash. Even though Stephen wasn't charged with a crime, the DEA was still able to seize his money as part of an ongoing investigation. What this means is that even if the police suspect you may have committed a crime, or were intending to commit a crime, they can take your stuff and never give it back. But in this case, the incident went viral. Stephen happened to be a combat veteran who served his country in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he wasn't about to let the DEA steal his entire life savings. He sued them, and they immediately turned over the money to avoid any further embarrassment. Number 2. Drunk off duty. Ashley Hunter is an officer with the Miami Police, but she got into some serious trouble in May of 2021 when she got busted driving drunk. According to her arrest report, Ashley crashed her car on a Tuesday, and she was so drunk when officers showed up that her eyes were bloodshot and watery, and she could barely talk. Ashley refused to take a sobriety test and had to be hauled off to the hospital for minor injuries. After she was released from the hospital, she was taken into custody, then bonded out of jail almost immediately. But here's the part that's really going to bug you. Ashley was busted quite obviously drunk while driving, yet she was given a paid vacation. Ashley was put on leave with pay while an investigation was carried out into her behavior. And last we heard, absolutely nothing has come of the supposed investigation, and Ashley hasn't been fired. And number 1, stealing human ashes. A man in Illinois is suing the city of Springfield following a terrifying and traumatic incident with 6 of its police officers. It happened during a traffic stop on April 6, 2020. Dartavius Barnes was pulled over by a cop for speeding and running a stop sign. Okay, that's his fault. But the police officer claimed his vehicle had been involved in a shooting and had a bullet hole in it. So, the cops had Barnes exit the vehicle and put him in handcuffs, then sat him in the back seat of his patrol cruiser. 5 more officers showed up to the scene, even though there was nobody there except Barnes, and was very secured in the back of a cruiser. They proceeded to pour through his car like a bunch of vultures, and at one point, an officer picked up a sealed urn, a small brass object that the officer immediately assumed contained narcotics. The officer unsealed the brass urn, claiming it looked like powdered ecstasy inside. The police told Barnes that they had tested the substance found in the urn and that it came back positive for drugs, either ecstasy or meth. But of course, none of this was true. The urn contained the ashes of his dead 2-year-old daughter. The officer was caught on video lying through his teeth. He didn't test anything. He just assumed that the substance was drugs, not human ashes. The officers desecrated Barnes' daughter's ashes, and now he's suing the city. They're scheduled to go to court in August of 2022.
If you were unlawfully arrested, would you fight the charges against you in court, or would you personally go down to the police station and plead your case with officers? Let us know what you would do in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.